people who run it to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
All right, welcome back, guys. I'm excited now because, and I'll tell you why, because we have got StarCraft 2 finally on stream number 2. I know it's on stream number 1 right now as well, but I'm so psyched. I've got Clutch here with me. I was going to have to cast this by myself, but now I've got Clutch casting with me. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I could not leave you hanging, man. Some of the passing's pretty tough. We're
I
out here in China.
it.
It's beautiful so far to see so many people here to support esports and see this huge international event. And now, to me, one of the flagship games when it comes to esports, StarCraft 2.
StarCraft 2 is really the game that ushered esports into the next age. It really did, man. I mean, when this game came out, everyone took notice. There were other esports games before this, obviously. There was Brood War, there was Counter-Strike, there was Quake, there was so much, but I feel like StarCraft 2 started that second age, that new era, and we have got an awesome match. FireZerg from Canada going up against Invictus Gaming's MacSed from China. MacSed, easily one of the best players in China. FireZerg, I've seen him around. I've maybe seen a game or two of his, but hasn't really been able to get huge results on a big international scale like this, so this is a huge opportunity for him, actually, going up against a player like MacSed. It's so cool, man. It's going to be a ZVP. I can't wait to see what's going on. Finally a game that I know about, I can cast today. That's kind of nice.
Well, definitely seeing any player get better at StarCraft 2 and have these opportunities to have more exposure is crucial for any player trying to get better and better.
Absolutely.
FireZerg, I did see play against Major in another tournament this year in an open bracket. He did okay. Major is definitely turning into a powerhouse when it comes to Terran players in StarCraft 2.
Oh yeah, Major's always been very good from the beginning,
MacSed is a player that I'm actually really excited to watch in this matchup because a lot of players from China I'm not too familiar with, and there's more and more being exposed, especially with the Battle.net World Championship and also the WCS. And Sen, who's from Taiwan, you know, a lot of the Chinese fans cheered for him when he was one of the only people left in the BWC, excuse me. So being here in mainland China, seeing the people cheer for their...
He's the hometown hero, man.
Team, I look forward to see how excited they're going to get.
It's him and Jim, I know from China, is another StarCraft player in this tournament from the land that we are in currently. And I don't know if there's any other Chinese players. I haven't actually gotten a chance yet to look at the entire player pool, but there's actually a decent amount of pretty good players in China. F91, who is a pretty well-known player in StarCraft 1 for having kind of a crazy style, did very well in some of the early Team Liquid show matches that they used to do way back in the Brood War days. He's playing StarCraft 2 right now. He came very close actually to, and Jim as well, came very close to getting a trip to IPL 5, which is going on this weekend, through their qualifiers, through what they call the Light of China qualifiers that they had earlier this year. So it's not a big group, but there's a little group in China of very talented players. MacSed, I would say definitely one of the foremost in them. Another one that you can't talk about China without mentioning is Loner, who has kind of faded away to a certain extent in terms of his participation in Western tournaments and even not participating in Korean tournaments anymore, but still a strong player from China. But I'm really curious to see how FireZerg's going to do today. I mean, his other Canadian representative on his side is Combat X, so we'll see how he does. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to be kind of curious to see if I get to cast any of his games, man. But
Combat X is a curious guy indeed. He was actually the flag bearer for the opening ceremonies. He carried the Canadian flag.
Yes, he was.
And we went,
representing Canada.
Where's Combat X? He was really excited about that. The opening ceremony was awesome. I felt that WCG did a great job showcasing the event itself and how important it was for all the sponsors that are putting it on, for Kunshan, China, which you're at, and how excited the mayor was to have this event here and how excited the crowd is to be here. I'm sure FireZerg's very excited to be here as well.
Oh, for
coming
sure.
all the way from Canada. You know, I flew out from the United States myself. Pretty long trip on that airplane. I'm sure he was thinking of, okay, how am I going to perform my best here? I'm in a foreign land. This is a foreign tournament compared to what he's been used to. But when it comes to StarCraft 2, it's the same game for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting.
That's true. And ZVP is a matchup that I feel like, and I don't want to, it's going to sound negative, but I don't mean it negatively. It has kind of stagnated lately. So if you play a ZVP in Canada, it's going to be very similar to a ZVP everywhere else in the world right now. You do see different matchups played differently in different parts of the world in other matchups, like TVT. I would say in the West is very different than TVT in Korea, in my opinion. But ZVP is kind of quote-unquote figured out. There's not a lot of new stuff happening in ZVP right now, aside from subtle tweaks on existing styles that are really popular in the metagame. So we might be able to see some of those, though, in this match. I mean, China is kind of an isolated pool of players as far as StarCraft goes. Whenever you have that kind of isolation, you have those bigger tweaks to the standards. So we may see MacSed come up with something that we're not expecting. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping FireZerg as well shows us a style that we're going to be a little bit more surprised to see. I don't really know what kind of Zerg player he is in ZVP. Most Zerg players, of course, try to go for the time bomb Broodlord play, where basically you get out the Infestor Broodlord composition, try to just win the late game like that. How fast do you go for that? What sort of mid game you present is going to be very different depending on the style of the player, but it's going to be really, really interesting, actually. I can't wait to see how these two guys play. This is one of the cool things about a big event like this. It's like the Olympics, you know? I mean, the Olympics has a lot of sports that are played worldwide, right, in other leagues that are more popular, that people kind of regard as more prestigious. But when it comes to the Olympics, everybody watches because it's more of a battle of nations than it is a battle of necessarily the highest skill and the best leagues. And it's just a really cool feeling. It's everybody coming together for esports, and if they can do that with StarCraft 2, that's the best way, in my opinion. I don't know, man. I'm so happy to cast StarCraft 2 again. It's been a while. I've been casting a lot of League for OGN. OSL ended about a month ago now. Waiting for Pro League to start on the 8th this year, 8th of December. So it's nice to be able to finally cast some StarCraft 2 again. It really is.
I agree with you, DoA. I mean, you are one of the premier casters when it comes to StarCraft 2, and to be able to cast with you is going to be, you know, great. Looking forward to this match here. Seeing a lot of the storylines develop for different players in the West, and seeing the joining, really, of the East and the West, of the Korean esports scene, especially with StarCraft and the history of Brood War and how it's involved with the release of StarCraft 2 about 2.5 years ago. And seeing the evolution of the last 2.5 years, seeing team houses in the West now. I mean, we have a team
little bit, yeah,
for Complexity in Texas. You have Quantic in California. And with myself working at NASL and seeing these different players develop and get better, and seeing the passion that they have for, I have got to focus and increase my performance, or I'm not going to be a mainstream player anymore. Yeah. And how they buckle down and get better. It's been really exciting to see that this year in 2012. I'm looking forward to 2013 and what's going to happen in the world of esports. But looking forward to this match to start here, looking like the players were changing their settings. Yeah, I think they're probably going to be ready pretty soon here. You know, talking about esports in general, 2013 is going to be a really exciting year. You and I were talking about this a little bit last night. We kind of hung out with Wolf and Keldor. And Wolf's in my room at the hotel. We were just talking about esports and everything. And the amount of effort that Blizzard is putting into StarCraft 2 now, they had WBC this year, or a BWC rather, this year. It went pretty well. Next year, you know, it sounds like they're going to step it up even more. It's going to be great. It's going to bring so many more fans into StarCraft 2. Heart of the Swarm is going to be awesome. Really excited about that, too. So I think 2013 is going to be a really, really exciting year for esports, but more than that, a very exciting year for StarCraft 2 specifically. The release of Heart of the Swarm is going to be an injection, pardon the pun, of more That's right. of everything when it comes to esports. And also, you know, the single-player campaign is going to be phenomenal. I'm told by Blizzard that one of the cinematics in the single-player campaign is the best cinematic Blizzard has made to date. And so many fans of esports and StarCraft 2 love the single-player campaign. But when you have people that play it and they get exposed to esports, it's fantastic. Yeah. Does this make you hungry? It does. It's not bad. Looks like pretty good food. It's a very inspirational sounding commercial about food, actually. All right.
getting into the game very soon, guys.
Of course, we want to thank all the sponsors of WCG that help make this happen. Samsung, definitely one of them. I use a Samsung phone. Really glad with their products. Did you know that...
I have a Samsung television.
You have a Samsung television?
I do.
That Sony and Panasonic no longer make televisions because Samsung has dominated the market so
I didn't actually know that. Wow.
Yeah, that was a recent announcement.
Crazy.
So congratulations, Samsung.
Buy now. If you're going to buy it now. See, I should be making the models for these guys.
12月1日13点登录 LD New TV 点 CN， 先到50级 WCG 世界总决赛选手战袍双手奉上。 冲破60级
Definitely buy your merchandise. As you can see here, there's
Those chairs are so comfortable.
They are.
I'm sitting one right now. It's great.
This is the same chair company that they featured at, I believe it was Asus Rock or DreamHack. A very cute blonde model.
All right. It is almost time, guys. Trying to save my voice. I can hear the countdown going. Right now, it's going to be FireZerg versus MacSed. MacSed from Invictus Gaming here in China. FireZerg. I apologize if he's on the team. I don't know if he is or not right now. Our first map, it looks like it's going to be Antigua Shipyard. And this is one game that I don't need an English client to cast, man. Finally, it is Starcraft time. ZVP. Hopefully we don't have close spawns enabled on this map. That would just be sad. Ideally, we've got a tournament version for this.
Tournament version does not have gold.
That's
in
right.
The center.
Doesn't look like this one does too, so I think we should be safe in that case. Gold minerals, get them out. Not a big fan. And here we go, guys. So FireZerg versus MacSed. Zerg versus Protoss. And you may say, DoA, well, it's obvious that FireZerg is a Zerg. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't be so sure because Hydra on Acer is actually a Terran player. So
yeah. Hendralisk, another Canadian player that's here, he plays Zerg.
There you go.
So it's a little bit easier to remember what kind of race they play based on their...
And here we go. So it looks like we have MacSed spawning as our blue Protoss player on the left side of the map. And on the right side, we have our red Zerg, FireZerg, appropriately red, the color of flame. And we do have cross spawns, so that's good. So I'm interested to see what MacSed is going to be doing. Obviously, I'd be surprised if it wasn't some sort of Forge expand. Now, the question with that is, will he build the Forge in his base like some Korean players have been trying? It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. He's going to go down and do a normal wall on this map. Zerg players have been doing earlier pools lately, 8 pools, 10 pools, and so in response, a lot of Protoss players in Korea, and then I've seen a few in Europe, like I've seen Grubby do this too, have started building their Forge in their main, so that if the early pool comes, they're going to be able to keep that alive, they're going to be able to get the cannon up, and then kind of go from there. But it does make your front wall a little bit more vulnerable. Looks like we're going to have a normal opening from FireZerg as well.
Yes, seeing the evolution of the playstyle of Protoss versus Zerg has been very intriguing the last 2 years. And we do hear a lot of Protoss players say, you know what, the end game is so difficult against Zerg. And we hear the same from Terran players as well. But in these opening moments here on Antigua Shipyard, every moment is important. And right now, the 2-minute mark, that spawning pool is going down before the hatchery.
Yeah. And that's exactly what most Zergs would do. I mean, a few Zergs here and there, like Sen from Taiwan tries to go hatchery first once in a while, but even though Protoss players don't really cannon you in, they can't block off your ramp anymore with 3 pylons because of all the neutral depots and all that. It's still generally too risky to go for a hatch first, so nearly always we'll see that spawning pool before the hatchery, and MacSed doing the very normal thing of putting down a pylon at the natural to block that hatchery from as long as possible. Doesn't look like MacSed is going to go ahead and send a Zerg to the 3rd base and just take his natural expansion there. And you can see MacSed on the minimap is setting up a probe to check for that right now. That was very, very trendy about 6 months ago or so through the beginning of the year. It's very trendy to just go and immediately build your hatchery at the 3rd base. But a lot of Zergs have started to worry a little bit more about doing that, especially on maps like Antigua, where you can come in from the back with Protoss, where you can separate the 3rd from the main and the natural a little bit more, too. So I think we're just going to see him get those Zerglings out, take down the pylon, and then just take his hatchery. In the meantime, another normal opening from MacSed as well, getting his Nexus after that first cannon. Or before the cannon.
Get us around on the pylon to take it out, so FireZerg's able to expand. The probe that was scouting is going to move down to the south of the base here. He's going to be safe. He might stop to get some scouting information from the Zelnaga, but the Zerglings are now going to move toward the third, where FireZerg is going to drop his hatchery. So at this time, with a proper wall, MacSed is going to be fine. But I've seen some players sometimes miss, like just a couple hexagons, and it actually costs them the game.
You see that a little bit on new maps. And, you know, where players aren't quite as familiar with the wall. You see it a lot on Abyssal City, for instance, in the GSL, where a Protoss player will get their cyber core a little bit wrong. I like this decision by FireZerg to send his Zerglings back to go after that probe. You don't want to probe scouting you. You don't want to probe. Don't feel like he needed to send all the Zerglings after that. I feel like he still should have sent most of them towards his opponent's base and just chase with 2, because he's not really trying to hide any information from MacSed right now. He's just trying to make sure that no pylons go up. If he doesn't want them to. And he's going to go ahead and surround that probe as well, so the FireZerg taking that early map control with those Zerglings.
No gas going down for FireZerg yet, just droning up, getting all those drones on his minerals. Popping the queens, sends the other queen that was complete at the hatchery that just completed to inject as soon as possible there. Wants to get that larva out as fast as possible. The third hatchery has complete as well. He's sending another queen over to his natural and probably going to send it to his third as well.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch the queens move so slow.
It's kind of painful to watch, isn't it?
But the wall is up perfectly for MacSed. He does have that one zealot blocking the only entry into his base, and now he's going to increase his probe count here. He does have a stalker on the way, +1 to weapons from his forge.
Yep, so we're going to have to see what he does with this. As the observer's pointing out, MacSed has not taken his third and fourth gas quite yet. Going to be interested in seeing where he takes us. Okay, that makes sense. I was going to say either he's going to get him very soon or it's going to be a Stargate. And there's a Stargate right away. If not the Stargate, would have been some sort of crazy gateway all in. But so it's going to be Phoenix play initially for MacSed. This has been so popular lately in PvZ just to get like 5 Phoenixes out, harass quite a bit. And a lot of Protoss players have been going 1-1 and then taking their third behind this and then getting that Robo, the Twilight Council, getting their tech going. So we're going to have to see how many gateways he wants to include with this. Got a feeling this is going to be a third base for MacSed, but we'll have to give it some time. Meanwhile, FireZerg doing the normal Zerg thing is getting his Roach Warren. Probably going to see that Evo chamber if he hasn't put it down already. And he's got, usually want to stop at around 40-something drones, get your gas, and then kind of decide what to do. And then maybe you go up to about 62 drones, and you're like, all right, is he all-inning me? And if you don't think he is, then you can go up to like 70, 80 drones and feel a little bit more safer about playing for the longer game. But yeah, there's the layer. So, I mean, all in all, this is a very, very typical PvZ, except MacSed actually going for the Void Ray first.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that, getting that instead of the Phoenix. Obviously, he'd want to back it up with some Phoenixes. Having that initial harass is such a good tactic to use this early in the game, getting those Overlords, picking up the Queens, prohibiting their injections, trying to get as many kills as you can. Of course, with enough Queens, they're able to chase away the Phoenixes or dropping a Spore Crawler or two. But at this time, he's just swarping in a bunch of Zealots and another Void Ray.
I see. Well, what we're seeing here is it's a little bit old school. This isn't something that has been done terribly often in the last 6 months. He's going to go for a +1 Zealot Void Ray push, and he's going to get his +1 armor behind this, and I still think we're going to see an expansion out of this. But he's going to go ahead and try to attack with just Zealots and Void Rays. The idea behind this is that you can handle Zerglings very well, and you can also kill off Queens. If the Queens die, then you can usually do some serious damage to the base. The problem for him, though, is that FireZerg's already got some Roaches out, so this is going to be maybe a little bit tougher than MacSed is thinking here. There's a surround on some of the units down there. That Queen getting very, very low. Will FireZerg be able to hold this off?
I think he's going to be able to at least get the Queen here. The drones are trying to get us around on the Zealots at this time as the Zealots focus on the Spore Crawler. The Zerglings down below trying to destroy the pylon to stop any more warp-ins here. It's a great warp-in tactic from MacSed to warp in because of the...
Oh, that Void Ray.
Oh, it's almost gone. 1
health left. FireZerg can take it out. The Queen's trying to get into range, and it doesn't quite happen.
But there's another Void Ray coming in. It is fresh, full shields, full health. It's going to probably take out this Queen really quickly.
So you can see behind this, there is that third base that we were talking about MacSed taking, but FireZerg, you know, he's responding okay to this. He hasn't taken that much damage really yet from it. He's getting a Hydralisk Cavern now, which is kind of like a knee-jerk reaction that you see some Zergs do, but I feel like it maybe isn't the best one. Oh, man, but MacSed, great force field at the last second. That was almost dangerous.
Beautiful, great timing, and it's so important to check your mini-map so often as a pro player to see what's going on. That Void Ray taking a little bit too much damage from that Spore Crawler, but it's going to get out of there. The third, pretty fully saturated for his FireZerg at this time. He's got most of his forces moving to the middle of the map here. Just a couple of the Protoss forces doing a little bit of damage with their Void Rays. Roaches cannot attack air, and that gets really annoying as a Zerg player. However, the third being prevented for a little while by FireZerg against MacSed is a bit of an advantage at this time, but it's still back and forth.
Well, this is actually a really interesting game right now. You know, we saw MacSed do the +1 Zealot Void Ray push. Didn't really do a lot of damage. He killed a couple queens, killed a couple lings. That's about it. We haven't seen the workers loss count, but I don't believe he lost that many. I think FireZerg came out of that okay. And so now we have a situation where FireZerg going for that Hydralisk Cavern. I was wondering if he was going to go after possibly a push with that and try to do a timing push to take advantage again of MacSed trying to retake his third, but now he's getting that Spire, so he might just be trying to anticipate the possible Colossus switch by MacSed, but I don't know if that's coming quite as soon as he thinks. I think FireZerg may be misreading this a little bit. If he is going for quick lair tech, it's not going to quite hit as soon as he wants it to, or quick hive tech rather. And yeah, here's the push I was wondering if we were going to see. And this is so interesting. You almost never see this, but this could be at a really good timing to hit MacSed when he's a little bit weak. The first Immortal now only popping out. The 3 Void Rays are going to help, but if the Hydras get in there, this could go okay for FireZerg.
Yeah, the Hydra's getting a couple shots on the Void Rays, but not able to take any of them out. Those Zerglings, Hydras, and Roaches are attacking the rocks. The rocks are going to fall. He's probably going to push into his base here. No, he's going to wait.
Yeah, he can't go for it. Great single force field trapping like 2 or 3 Hydralisks down at the bottom. And that's enough Hydralisks taken out that MacSed will need to pull back. He just finished his Spire, so I'm wondering if we're going to just see Corruptors come out, because those would both handle any Void Rays are out on the map very easily, and, you know, the Colossi that might happen. But he is getting the Groove Spines for the Hydralisk, so it's tough to say. There is a Robotics Bay going down now for MacSed as well, so he is going to be getting Colossi. Doing a little bit of scouting with that Phoenix, too. This has turned into such a weird game right now. MacSed, such a delayed third that he's going to try to go into sort of a normal tech route with this. FireZerg going for that little push with Hydras, but he didn't really have enough Hydras, didn't really have the positioning here, so now he's going to try to go into that Broodlord late game. He's going to try to take the third base as well, or fourth base in the middle of the map as well, so...
Yeah, he did spawn another hatchery, so he's going to have 5 hatcheries total with the 4th base spawning here in just a couple seconds. And having that amount of units being able to respawn, especially if, you know, he has a massive Zerglings and they all get taken out by the Colossi, he can have a couple Corruptors on the way and take out the Colossi. And then if he needs to, morph them into Broodlords.
He's got the map control, but really, you know, what you want to look at with this is that just now is him getting that pathogen glands upgrade. I mean, just now is he getting ready to produce infestors, and that's a little bit late, a little bit of hesitation there too because of the Void Rays. It's going to be a really good defense for MacSed, but FireZerg's Hive Tech is going to come so late now that he's not really going to be able to take a big advantage out of his opponent's late third base. So MacSed's still not in the worst position ever. He's getting his upgrades. He's even getting Zealot Charge a little bit early here, and I think that may be even before Blink. Did he get Blink? I think I'd love it if he clicked on one of the Stalkers there.
Click on a Stalker, read our minds.
Oh, nope, that's a Colossus.
So close.
Click a Stalker. I might have missed it in the production queue. But
I have not seen any Stalkers blink in this game.
Normally
so
you do get Blink first if you're going to go for that third base. And so we do have the Infestors coming out now, but again, a very late Hive. He still has that map control. He's got this 200-shooter army, though, but he can't really do anything with it at the moment. That's going to give MacSed time, and he's got to be so careful with this, actually. There's a Blink ahead, so yeah, Blink is done. And I don't know, man. Here we go. MacSed trying to come up this ramp here. Will he be able to do it enough? Force field preventing a lot of Roaches from firing, but the Hydras from behind are able to continue shooting. The Colossus getting focused down. That's going to be a lot more damage. But yeah, between the Stalkers with those upgrades and the Colossus, too much damage taken by MacSed, and you can really see here why getting that Hydralisk Cavern is going to hurt him, because he didn't have Infestors. He didn't have the fungal growth until right now, and he wasn't able to win that fight because of it.
Yeah, those Void Rays really helped out to kind of trick his opponent, or FireZerg kind of overcompensated to try to take down air, and now the Stalker's going to continue to push here, do as much damage against these Roaches, trying to spread out his forces, throwing down some force fields as well to trickle down. what's left of the Zerglings and the Roaches here. Not sure if he's going to push up. No, he's going to go toward the fourth base and take it down. You don't want to overextend here. Try to do as much damage to the economy, and that's what MacSed's doing.
Oh, yeah, and FireZerg's going to try this again, but he's lucky that MacSed doesn't have more force fields, because, yeah, he's just going to lose his fight. MacSed's in huge, oh, no, FireZerg's in huge trouble right now. I don't know if he's going to be able to win this. But yeah, MacSed just doing too good of a job blinking away those Stalkers. He's just got too much of an advantage with the upgrades, with the numbers. The engagement wasn't the greatest for FireZerg, and yeah, that overreaction to those Void Rays really cost him. Such an interesting game. GG well played from FireZerg, and MacSed takes the first game here in the Starcraft group. So let's talk about that game for just a second while we still have a little bit of time. So interesting, actually, because we saw that old school push, the +1 Zealot plus Void Ray, right? Now, what that's meant to do is make Zerg overreact and get Hydralisks, which is something that no Zerg really does anymore. That's why we don't see the +1 Zealot Void Ray anymore. FireZerg taking the bait, man, hook, line, and sinker, went for the Hydras, really delayed his Hive, really delayed his Infestors, and when that fight happened in the middle of the map, he just did not have the composition that he needed to defeat MacSed. So, lesson learned, hopefully, for FireZerg. It's only the first game in group stages, and hopefully we'll see better things from him.
It was very neat to see that many Void Rays on the map.
They're generally a unit people avoid now. Yeah, it's the only unit that actually gets worse as you upgrade it weapon-wise.
It's like we said before, seeing the different strategies or playstyles of these different players that are not as exposed or as featured in the esports scene is really neat to see. Now, Infestors with Fungal and with Infested Terrans can take out those Void Rays no problem. Plus, they're still way more utilized in the team fight.
Well, the other thing too is that his spores were a little bit late. He didn't have enough spore crawlers, which is part of what pushed him to make that Hydralisk cavern. Is that he just felt under the pressure, and you can see here he actually handles this really well. He actually handles this attack about as well as he could have. Loses his queen here. He does get this around on the flanking force, but as you can see, only one spore crawler. It's very late. That one doesn't even get up. He has to fight with a lot of drones here, and again, behind all this, right now, what is he doing? He's getting Hydralisks. He's getting the Hydralisk tech right now. By the time he has the Hydralisks, the threat from the Void Rays are over. That's why we see that kind of awkward timing to try to take advantage of maybe catching MacSed when he wasn't quite ready because his third was delayed a little bit. Like, honestly, FireZerg had a good handle on this game up until around this point right here, because even though things were kind of delayed, he still could have played defensive. He was a little bit too aggressive. When your infestation pit is this late, you can't be taking chances like this. He did it anyway. He paid for it. You could just see power overwhelming here, man. MacSed having no trouble at all representing his home country.
At least over 8 Corruptors in that engagement. And Colossi are done. They're gone. No more. You've eliminated that threat, but you have a much more serious threat of all these Stalkers, this Immortal, these Sentries, and you have to be able to think, okay, do I deal just with one section of his army, or do I need to deal with his entire Ball of Death, his entire army?
Yeah.
FireZerg, I think, will hopefully learn from that match, go, listen, I focused too much on his Void Rays.
Well, here's our schedule, guys. This is going to be a little bit off because we've gotten a little bit, crazy. Some of the games have been delayed and things like that. Had a lot of fun casting that game with DoA Clutch. Thanks for stepping in, helping me out there. I think we're going to move to a different game right now. It is actually going to be, okay, cool. So we're going to see World of Tanks now. World of Tanks,
which I will stay here, and Rambo will be joining me.
And I'm going to get out of here. It's been fun. I'll be back later for more stuff. So,
all right, DoA.
All right, later.